Welcome back, Jimmy. He's got some breaking news for you now, and it's a major story. The asylum seeker, Hadush Gerberslasie Kebatu, 38, has been found guilty at Chelmsford Magistrates Court of sexually assaulting a woman and a 14-year-old girl in Epping, Essex, days after arriving in the UK on a small boat. Now, this incident was the one, of course, that sparked all of the protests in Epping. This was the incident that caused people to take to the streets. Just to repeat that breaking news, a major piece of breaking news today. The asylum seeker, Hadush Gerberslasie Kebatu, aged 38. He's been found guilty at Chelmsford Magistrates Court of sexually assaulting a woman and a 14-year-old girl, a child, in Epping, Essex, just days after arriving in the UK on a small boat. You can see CCTV footage there of him being apprehended by Essex police and of him being arrested, found guilty there on 2 counts. And this of course precipitated those protests outside the Bell Hotel in Epping, where this individual was a resident. Kickstarted a huge conversation nationwide about who are these people who walk among us, what are their backgrounds, their propensity to sexually offend. And here we have it, guilty on 2 counts. Asylum seeker Hadush Gerberslasie Kebatu, 38, found guilty at Chelmsford Magistrates Court of sexually assaulting a woman and a 14-year-old girl, a child, in Epping, Essex, just days after arriving in the UK on a small boat. He was an Ethiopian national. He was alleged to have attempted to kiss the teenager and put his hand on her thigh, and he brushed her hair in July as she offered him a pizza on a park bench. Now, an adult member of the public also accused Kebatu of trying to kiss her, put his hand on her leg and telling her she was pretty. This was just days after he arrived on a small boat, an illegal immigrant from Ethiopia. He claimed to be a teacher of sports in his home country. He initially had denied those 2 counts of sexual assault, 1 count of attempted sexual assault and 1 count of inciting a girl to engage in sexual activity, and also 1 count of harassment without finding. But today, magistrates have found this creature guilty. Hadush Gerberslasie Kebatu, 38, found guilty at Chelmsford Magistrates Court of sexually assaulting a woman and a 14-year-old girl, a schoolgirl, in Epping. Sorry, I get very emotional about things like this. It's just 14-year-old girl on a bench who was having pizza. Let's get now to our man, our national reporter, Charlie Peters, who joins us from outside the court. Charlie, over to you.
Well, Martin, we've just been told that Hadush Kebatu, the Ethiopian small boat migrant found guilty of sexually assaulting a teenage girl, will be sentenced on the 23rd of September at this court, Chelmsford Magistrates Court. And as I was leaving court just now, the district judge, Christopher Williams, warned him to expect an immediate custodial sentence, adding, "It is just a question now of how long." There was no reaction from Kebatu in the dock as the judgment was handing down. That verdict lasting nearly an hour for the district judge to come to his conclusions, summing up the 2-day trial from last week and the prosecution and defence cases that he reheard earlier this afternoon. Now, Kebatu sat in the dock with one hand on his face, wearing a prison-issued grey tracksuit, and remained motionless as he heard the deliberations from the prosecution and the defence counsel through an interpreter, a Tigrinya interpreter, which is a language which is commonly found in Ethiopia and parts of Eritrea. But he's been found guilty of all charges against him. That is the sexual assault of a 14-year-old girl, the sexual assault of a woman, and attempting a sexual assault of a girl, inciting that girl to engage in sexual activity, and harassment of the girl without violence. It was a nervous courtroom towards the conclusion. Suddenly the room fell silent as Christopher Williams gave his conclusions. As I say, after nearly an hour of summarising the verdicts, you could feel that tension. One member of the gallery sitting near me said that he was a friend of one of those children's fathers. He was reacting very nervously as that judgment was about to come through. A gallery packed with journalists, and the judge saying that he was aware of the significant press and public interest attention in this case. Now, as he summarised his verdict, the judge, Christopher Williams, says that he was not persuaded of the conspiracy that was claimed by the defendant against him. Mr. Kebatu said that the woman who had accused him of sexual assault had engaged with the 14-year-old girl and her friends to conspire against him, saying they made up the allegations after encountering him. The judge said, though, that he wasn't persuaded by any evidence to support that, and that there was no basis in claims that the children fabricated the accounts they gave. There were 3 different children giving evidence as witnesses in this case. He said that some of the inconsistencies between their accounts make it even less likely that they concocted their evidence together to generate a conspiracy. When he also came towards that conclusion, the judge said that it was clear and consistent that Mr. Kebatu had spoken to the children, but as he went through the reason for finding those guilty verdicts on all 5 of those counts, he pointed to the fact that Mr. Kebatu had not given any comments during his police interview before later relying on a different account of what had happened in the court. He said that this had gone against him. Now, the district judge, Christopher Williams, also said that because there were no previous convictions against Kebatu, Hadush Gerberslasie, the Ethiopian small boat migrant asylum seeker being held in the Epping hotel, the Bell Hotel, he said that he was technically of good character. He said this because the prosecution, the Crown, had gone to great lengths to check with the countries that he had passed through on the way to Britain to see if he had any outstanding or any claims against him through the court systems in any of those countries. And he said that despite those great efforts, they had not been able to find any evidence of previous criminal history. Now, we didn't learn which countries he had gone through or how long his journey had taken, although we did learn today that he had been a teacher in Ethiopia. So both the prosecution and defence asserting that he was of good character, which the judge said he considered during his judgment. We also went back during that almost hour of summarising the evidence of what happened in Chelmsford Magistrates Court to the moment of Kebatu's arrest on the 8th of July. Now, the judge said that there was no DNA belonging to the 14-year-old girl found on his hands after they were swabbed by Essex police. Now, a prepared statement was read on behalf of Kebatu during ahead of a police interview where he eventually gave no comment, and the prepared statement said that Kebatu was at the locations that each of the alleged offences took place, but that he didn't commit them. And again, they asserted that he was of good character. But the judge here today finding that the evidence against him was overwhelming, with these individual witness accounts by the children and also the woman that he was found guilty of sexually assaulting. Now, Christopher Williams, as he gave his remarks, as he concluded his remarks, he saw Mr. Kebatu being taken away, led down to the cells by 2 security guards. He'll be held on remand in prison until his sentencing, which will take place on the 23rd of September in just a few weeks' time. There was quite a significant buzz of tension inside that room, Martin, not just because of the severity of what was taking place inside Chelmsford's Magistrates Court regarding those allegations, now guilty charges of sexually assaulting a teenage girl, but also because of the wider public interest in this case. Because, Martin, of course, so much anger and focus has been directed in Epping and around the country as a consequence of these offences, now confirmed by District Judge Christopher Williams. You could sense almost that the judge knew that there was possibly more interest in the judgment he was giving than had ever been given before and may ever be given, because of how vital this case has been to policing, law and order and the wider political debate in this country. But he's down in the cells now, and he'll be sentenced at this court again on the 23rd of September, as Hadush Kebatu, an Ethiopian small boat migrant asylum seeker, has been found guilty of 5 charges, including the sexual assault of a 14-year-old girl, the sexual assault of a woman, the attempted sexual assault of the same girl, inciting that girl to engage in sexual activity, harassment of the girl without violence. Guilty on all 5 counts and set for an immediate custodial sentence on the 23rd of September.
You know, Charlie Peters, it's comforting and sobering that justice has been served. I feel really upset about this case, you know, because this is the 14-year-old girl. I'm trying my best to keep it together here. And The Guardian are still reporting on this as precipitating far-right protests. You're not far-right if you object to a schoolgirl being sexually approached by an Ethiopian illegal immigrant. And Charlie Peters is coming out here in court. Molly Dias, defending Kebatu, asked the girl if she had made up allegations because she was angry that Kebatu was an asylum seeker. And the girl replied, "I didn't make up any allegation. I know exactly what I saw. I have no issue with asylum seekers. I was angry that he had touched a 14-year-old girl." What an incredibly grim ordeal, not only to have to go through in person, Charlie Peters, but to be put through in court like that. And I suspect, Charlie Peters, this will be the beginning of a huge national conversation, not only just about this case, but this was what precipitated those protests in Epping and indeed nationwide. And Charlie Peters, a lot of people will be asking big questions about who walks amongst us and how safe are all of our children.
Yes, Martin, and the court heard again today how Hadush Kebatu had arrived in Britain just days before these offences took place, from July the 7th to July the 9th. And one of the witnesses in this trial, a boy who observed many of the incidents taking place, said that he had been told by Kebatu that he had paid just over £2,000 to arrive in Britain on a dinghy. We heard how Kebatu had invited a girl back to the Bell Hotel, the site of so many protests led primarily by parents and mums in Epping, in Essex, had invited her back there, having made reference to making babies and making Jamaican babies, as was quoted during that 2-day trial last week. There were attempts, as you've just described, Martin, to obviously put forward Kebatu's defence, but ultimately, during Christopher Williams' final judgment here at Chelmsford Magistrates Court, he pointed to the inconsistencies in Kebatu's defence, how he had not given information to the police when arrested, how he had asserted that he had just said hi to the girls, that had not continued a conversation with those children, but then in a police interview gave no comment, and even the finding of good character, because there were no previous convictions against him during his movement from Ethiopia to Britain, could not defend him against that. There was also clearly, I think, more than just a display to show how considered the District Judge Christopher Williams was in assessing all of the evidence in this case. There was clearly on his part a demonstration and a need to accurately and clearly review all of the evidence being heard before him, which was demonstrated by maybe an hour into today's proceedings. Him asking to look at footage again of a moment when the children first reported the incident to the police. So the court fell silent, as it did numerous times during moments of greater tension inside Chelmsford Magistrates' Courts today, as the District Judge, Christopher Williams, asked for that footage to be replayed. He wanted to do that after both the prosecuting and defence barristers had summarised their claims and given their summarising speeches, but ultimately it was the prosecution's case that won out here, and Mr Kebatu, guilty on all 5 counts, is set to be sentenced at the same place on the 23rd of September. He remains in custody.